Emily Johnson was only 8 years old when she vanished without a trace, and Marcus Lane, her quiet, soft-spoken neighbor, was the last person anyone suspected. But beneath his calm exterior hid a chilling secret that would unravel a townie's sense of safety and expose the darkness lurking just 2 doors down. It was a quiet Thursday morning in the peaceful town of Willow Creek, where life followed a gentle rhythm. The sun had just begun to rise, casting a warm glow over the neatly trimmed lawns and picket fences. The Johnson household buzzed with the usual school day routine. Emily Johnson, just 8 years old, dressed in her favorite pink jacket and packed her lunchbox with peanut butter sandwiches, her favorite. She waved goodbye to her mother and began her short walk to Willow Creek Elementary, only 2 blocks away. It was a walk she had taken many times before. The town was considered safe. Everyone knew everyone, and parents rarely worried about their children walking to school alone. Emily, cheerful and curious, had grown up surrounded by familiarity. Neighbors often saw her skipping down the sidewalk or chatting with shopkeepers on her way to class. But on that particular morning, something changed. She never arrived. When her teacher noticed Emily's empty seat, she assumed she might be running late. But when recess came and went with no sign of her, concern grew. The school called Emily's parents, who confirmed she had left for school hours earlier. Panic set in immediately. Within hours, the police were notified, and the search began. Neighbors joined in, calling her name, scouring the parks, trails, and nearby alleyways. A few hours later, Emily's pink backpack was discovered abandoned near a storm drain about a mile from the school. It was unzipped, and her lunchbox was missing. No other clues were found at the scene. As the sun set, flashing lights filled the neighborhood. Officers combed the area with dogs and drones. Helicopters flew overhead, but there was no sign of Emily. The next day, hundreds gathered to help. Flyers were stapled to telephone poles. Her photo spread across social media. Tips poured in, but none led anywhere. Days turned into weeks. Despite the efforts of the entire town, Emily had vanished without a trace. No one had seen her, no cameras captured her route, and no witnesses came forward. The Johnson family clung to hope, but even they knew the chances of finding her alive were growing smaller with each passing day. The case that had started as a missing person report was now taking a darker turn. Something was terribly wrong. 34 days after Emily Johnson's disappearance, just as the town of Willow Creek began to settle into an uneasy silence, a new development shook the case wide open. Early one morning, a plain white envelope arrived at the local police station. It had no return address, no name, only the department's name handwritten on the front. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper, torn at the edges, and written in shaky, uneven handwriting. It read, "She's not far, buried where the woods begin behind the old fence." That was all. Detectives immediately began analyzing the note. Forensics couldn't lift any usable fingerprints from the paper. The ink was ordinary, the paper cheap, nothing traceable. But the words themselves pointed to a place the search teams had overlooked. The old fence at the edge of Windmere Woods, a thick patch of forest just outside of town. It was a quiet area that had fallen out of use, where children no longer played and where weeds grew taller than most people's knees. A team of officers, forensic experts, and cadaver dogs assembled at dawn and moved into the woods. They followed a narrow, overgrown path that led toward a rotting wooden fence half swallowed by ivy. Beyond it, under the dense cover of trees, the ground was soft and disturbed. One of the dogs began barking. They started digging. Within hours, they uncovered a shallow grave. It was barely deep enough to hide anything. Wrapped tightly in a worn, floral print blanket was the small, lifeless body of a child. She was curled up, as if asleep. There was no mistaking her. Dental records confirmed it was Emily Johnson. The medical examiner performed an autopsy that same evening. Emily had died from suffocation. There were no signs of physical assault or struggle. Her body showed no visible trauma beyond a few scratches, likely from being carried through the brush. The findings raised disturbing questions. Why would someone take a child, keep her alive for days, then kill her without leaving a trace? Back in town, grief turned into fear. The discovery reignited the case, but the lack of forensic evidence left investigators with more questions than answers. Who had written the letter? Why bury her there? And more importantly, what kind of person could do this in a town where everyone thought they knew each other? Several weeks after the discovery of Emily's body, the investigation had reached a frustrating standstill. Detectives worked tirelessly, revisiting every tip, Ray interviewing neighbors, and reviewing hours of surveillance footage. But progress was slow. No fingerprints, no eyewitnesses, and no clear suspects. The town was restless. Parents no longer let their children walk alone, and trust in the once safe streets had crumbled. Then came an unexpected lead from an entirely different case. A man named Ray Collins was arrested during a routine traffic stop when police found stolen car parts in the back of his truck. During a search of his property for stolen goods, officers entered his detached garage. What they found inside caught them completely off guard. Tacked to one of the walls was a collection of newspaper clippings, all related to Emily's disappearance and the discovery of her body. Some articles had red ink marks around specific words like woods, school, and vanished. One article had Emily's photo circled 3 times. Investigators brought Ray in for questioning. He explained the clippings away, claiming he had followed the case closely like everyone else. But further digging into his background raised even more red flags. Years earlier, Ray had worked part-time as a janitor at Willow Creek Elementary, Emily's school. He had been fired quietly after being caught inside the building late at night with no explanation. The school had never reported the incident to police. Investigators found an old security camera video from a gas station on the outskirts of town. The timestamp matched the morning of Emily's disappearance. Ray's pickup truck could be seen parked along the wooded path Emily often walked to school. He stayed there for almost 15 minutes, then drove off. It was enough to bring him in again. Despite the evidence, Ray maintained his innocence. He said he was in the area for work and had simply pulled over to take a phone call. No DNA or physical evidence linked him directly to Emily's death. Without more, police couldn't charge him. Still, suspicion lingered. His unusual behavior, connection to the school, and fixation on the case couldn't be ignored. The town watched closely as rumors spread. Was Ray a killer hiding in plain sight, or just a troubled man obsessed with a tragedy? Investigators weren't sure, but they weren't done looking. Just as the investigation seemed to be circling the same uncertain ground, an unexpected discovery came from inside the Johnson home itself. Emily's older brother Kevin was helping his parents clean out the attic in hopes of donating old belongings. It was an emotional process. Boxes of school projects, drawings, and holiday decorations stirred painful memories. But one item stood out, a dusty, locked suitcase pushed far into a corner behind old furniture. They broke the lock, expecting to find unused clothes or forgotten keepsakes. Instead, they uncovered something chilling. Inside was a small showbox wrapped in duct tape. When opened, it revealed Emily's missing charm bracelet, the one she was last seen wearing on the morning she disappeared. It had been thought lost forever. Alongside it were several disturbing items: a broken walkie-talkie, a faded school photo of Emily with a corner torn off, and a crumpled sheet of paper with the words "You promised" written in large, shaky letters. The Johnsons had never seen these items before. The suitcase didn't belong to them. The discovery was immediately reported to the police, who treated the scene as a potential crime location. The bracelet was tested for DNA, as were the box and the paper. The results were shocking. None of the evidence contained Ray Collins's DNA. Instead, a new name emerged: Marcus Lane, a 39-year-old neighbor who lived just 2 houses down from the Johnsons. Marcus had been part of the initial search efforts. He had brought food for volunteers, posted flyers, and even spoken on local news stations urging anyone with information to come forward. He was seen as a helpful, quiet man, a loner, but harmless. However, a deeper background check revealed troubling details. Marcus had a history of untreated mental health issues and had once been hospitalized after a breakdown. He had no criminal record, but neighbors recalled odd behavior: talking to himself, walking the streets at night, and hoarding broken electronics in his garage. When police questioned Marcus again, his story changed. He said he had never interacted with Emily and had no idea how his DNA could be on her bracelet. His nervous behavior raised alarms. Investigators secured a warrant to search his home and property more thoroughly. What they were about to find would finally connect the pieces and reveal a horrifying truth that had been hiding just beyond the edge of the community's vision. Police secured a search warrant for Marcus Lane's property and arrived early one morning, determined to uncover any hidden evidence. The yard was overgrown with weeds and tangled vines, giving it a deserted, almost forgotten appearance. Neighbors watched from a distance as officers slowly moved through the tall grass, flashlights in hand, seeking anything out of place. Behind the house, partially concealed by a row of scraggly bushes, they spotted a flimsy wooden shed. Its door hung crooked, and the roof sagged as if it had been neglected for years. Inside the shed, the air was dank and musty. Flashlights revealed a small pile of children's books, all worn and stained, stacked beside a faded mattress lying directly on the dirt floor. Drawings depicting lonely figures in homes surrounded by trees were taped to the walls. One image showed a child with a teddy bear, curled in a corner, an eerie echo of Emily herself. Scattered on a rickety table were broken pieces of a walkie-talkie and fragments of paper with scribbled words that matched the handwriting on the note Emily's brother had found in the attic. Officers collected everything carefully, knowing each item might hold clues to what happened. Feeling the weight of the evidence, detectives pressed Marcus Lane for answers. Confronted with the items from the shed and the DNA match on Emily's bracelet, he could no longer maintain his denials. Marcus admitted that in the weeks after Emily vanished, he became obsessed with the search. He convinced himself that if he could hide her and keep her close, he would control every moment of her life. No one would ever take her away again. He lured Emily on her route to school by saying there was a lost puppy he needed help finding. When she followed him into the shed, he held her there, isolated and fearful. Marcus confessed that after several days, Emily started to cry uncontrollably, afraid and desperate. In a panicked moment, believing it was the only way to silence her, he covered her mouth until she stopped breathing. Horrified by what he had done, he wrapped her in a blanket, carried her into the woods behind the fence, and buried her in a shallow grave. He left the note to divert suspicion, hoping someone else might be blamed. The twisted plan fell apart when his own sister, having heard strange noises from his backyard weeks earlier, grew concerned. Unable to bear the guilt of staying silent, she sent the anonymous letter to the police before she could reveal her brother's secret. Marcus Lane was arrested, tried, and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The conviction brought a heavy sense of relief mixed with profound sorrow to Willow Creek. Parents began keeping a closer eye on their children. The once trusted neighborhood became a place where secrets felt all too real. The Johnson family, struggling with unbearable grief, laid Emily to rest in a small ceremony attended by nearly every resident. A simple memorial plaque now stands near the school she never returned to, reminding everyone that close communities can hide terrible darkness, and that even the most familiar faces can conceal unspeakable acts.